Thank you for clarifying. It's arrhythmic.
Okay. מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. איי 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 שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. אוי 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 שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים שבת אחים גם יחד. הנה מה טוב ומה נעים. אוי 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 שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Let's try that one more time, a little bit more koach, a little bit more energy. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
For all of you who are streaming, let's hear you guys. So good. Did anything good happen last night? Did anything good happen last night? Yeah, that was pretty fun, wasn't it? So, what a delight to be here with brothers and sisters as we dwell together in harmony. I want to introduce the folks that are up on our bima. Some of these are very familiar to you. Some of them might be less familiar, but we have Ken on drums and Fred getting ready to go on a polar expedition into, maybe that's what it is today, playing guitar, and then our amazing cantorial intern, Gabe Lehrman, who grew up at Beth Am, and it was leading us in voice and guitar and song all summer. So it's a delight to have him here, not just because he's an amazing presence, but he gets to bring new and sacred melodies to our worship. Speaking of sacred melodies, I want to share with you just a gift I got right before, or a gift that Beth Am got right before services. Rabbi Larry Milder is here from Pleasanton, and somebody was digging through an attic or a garage or something and found the Beth Am Choir Sings High Holiday Liturgy from, we couldn't figure out the exact year, but Rabbi Sidney Axelrod and Rabbi Abner Bergman with Russell S. Cohen on shofar. So if you have a record player, do you guys know what a record player is? No. If you have a record player, we can do a group listen to this. Thank you. What a cool gift and what a cool way to be able to think about the coming in of Shabbat as family and friends. If you're streaming, the flip book to our Shabbat services are on the Beth Am webpage. If you're here in person, you can grab a siddur in the back and delight in Shabbat with us. As we turn to light our Sabbath candles, it's a delight to invite forward the family of our Benot Mitzvah tomorrow morning. Eden Jamkard, Joy Jamkard, Mark and Juliet Jamkard, Devin Tepper, Perry Tepper, Jamie Tepper, and Matt Tepper. And we are on page 2. Come on, right in here. All right, we have the moms come on in here. All right. Yeah, you're lighting the candle, so you push down. Yep. light the candles. We can just pretend. You can take that one. Yeah. It's okay. No problem. Not your fault. Invite our Benot Mitzvah up here, and we'll sing the words of Kiddush together on page 5. All right up here. 1, 2, 3. Baruch atah Adonai,
Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, v'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu vacharta, ve'otanu kidashta, mikol hamim. V'shabbat kodshecha, be'ahava uvratzon, hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh haShabbat.
Have a sip. How is it?
I think it's grape juice.
It is definitely grape juice, yes. Mazel tov to your whole families. Page 20 or 138, the words of Lecha Dodi.
Lecha Dodi, ikratala, nene Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, ikratala, nene Shabbat nekabela. Shamo v'zacho v'diburecha tishmi'anu, el ha'meyuchad Adonai echad, u'shemo echad Shemu tiferet, ve'litila lecha Dodi, ikratala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi, ikratala, b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Ikrat Shabbat lechu v'necha, ki mekor haberacha merosh b'kedem Yesu baso masel. Adoni ikratala b'nei Shabbat nekabela. Oi v'shalom ater balad gam besimcha u'besola. Shabbat nekabela Adoni ikratala b'nei Shabbat nekabela.
I'll keep singing with our call to worship. The words of the Baruch Hu are on page 28 or 146. Page 32. אותנו למדתה. על כן אדוני אלוהינו ושוכבנו, וקומנו נצליח בחוקיך, ונשמע בדברי תורתך, ומצוותיך לעולם ועד. כי הם חיינו, לאורך ימינו, ובהם גגי יומם ולילה, גגי יומם ולילה. תסיר ממנו
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Be seated. It's an honor to invite forward Olivia and Becca Jacobson to lead us in the words of Deuteronomy, the words of the Viahafta on page 36 or 154. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם אמת. So much. Thank you to Becca and Olivia for leading us in those sacred words about how parents should teach their children. We'll sing our song of freedom, Mi Chamocha Ba'elim Adonai, page 40 or 158. שנאמר, כי פדרנה את יעקב, וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני.
Baruch Hu Baruch Shemo.
קהל ישראל.
If you're streaming at home, we're about to see a slide on your television. If you're here, I think you might have picked up a handout as you walked in. If you didn't, no worries. You'll catch on really soon as Fred and Gabriel lead us in this song. Our special song for Shabbat, Vishamru, is on page 44 or 162. And it's always a delight to have Fred Ross Perry here. Is this one of your originals? All right, Fred's going to teach us a new version of Vishamru on this Shabbat. So we're in for a treat.
Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, Shabbat, Shabbat, Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, Shabbat, Shabbat. Try that. Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, Shabbat, Shabbat, Vishamru, B'nai Yisrael, Shabbat, Shabbat, La'asot Shabbat, לדורותם ברית עולם. לעשות את השבת, לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל, השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל, השבת שבת. ישראל, הודי לעולם. והיא ובין בני ישראל, הודי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל, את השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל, את השבת שבת. ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל את שבת ויהי נפל. וביום השביעי שבת ויהי נפל. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת שבת.
If you're able, please rise. We'll begin the Amidah on page 46 or 164.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה, מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע. מוריד הטל, מחלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ברופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש. As many of you know, I'm sure, this weekend marks Juneteenth, the kind of the celebration of the end of slavery and the celebration of one aspect of our heritage as Americans, specifically African Americans, and honors them. And we wanted to honor them as well in our own way. And so you can find the words for "Lift Every Voice and Sing," which in some ways I've heard it dubbed as the Black National Anthem. And you can find it if you're on Zoom. Then you can find it on. It should come up for you on the screen. And if you are here, then there's a sheet that has the words, and so we can sing Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us, facing the rising sun of our new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Our thoughts turn to prayers of healing. Potentially you're here because you're thinking of someone in need of healing, or maybe even you yourself are in need of healing. The words of this week's Torah portion are actually a very succinct and powerful prayer that Moses offers to his sister who is in need of healing. He says the words, El na refanala. 11 letters in the Hebrew. But ask God in a prayer to please heal her. Please heal Miriam. God, may you please heal these folks who we are thinking of in this community. Ken Adler, Susan Carlson, Abigail Covert, Rabia Ergelin, Max Gentry, Selena Glader, Faith Gobedy, Sarah Guido, Dorothy Huppert, Moritz Huppert, Marvin Jones, Arnie Kaufman, Harold Muckamal, Sophia Palazban, Donna Perlman, Dr. Mark Perlroth, Rabbi Laurie Phillips, Peggy Pizzo, Dale Prinstein, Steve Shane, Stephen Abraham Simon, David Baruch Ben Simona, Matthew Smith, Donna Spanger, Linda Wan, Nicole Gent Wickenheiser, and Katie Wilson. If you're thinking of anyone in need of healing, I invite you to say their name out loud so we can add them to our prayer. These words are on page 373.
Anna elna refanala, Anna elna Ana elna refana la Ana elna Ana elna refana la Ana elna Ana elna refana la Ana elna. Ana elna refana la Ana elna Ana elna refana la Ana elna refana la
The greatest of all Israeli musicians is Arik Einstein, the Israeli Paul Simon. Einstein's career spanned over 50 years. His songs and his popularity span generations, and unique for any artist, seem to break through ethnic and even to a point religious differences in Israel. After he passed away in 2013, then Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said, "His songs accompanied us at all the stations of our lives, in our loves and disappointments, our ups and downs." Eulogies after his death called him the soundtrack of a nation. You likely know some of his music. Uf Gozal is a beautiful song which uses the metaphor of young chicks leaving a nest to connect to parents' angst and anxiety of children heading off to forge their own paths, filled with life's burdens and blessings. It's So Good to Have You Back Home, though written in 1972, became an anthem from Gilad Shalit's return from captivity in 2012. It captures the spirit of Israel as one family welcoming back a lost brother and a son. One of his less famous songs, which I actually hadn't heard until a few weeks ago, is not about Jerusalem or Haifa or Tel Aviv, the city in which he was born in 1939, but rather it's about San Francisco. Here it is.
יושב בסן פרנסיסקו על המים, שוטף את העיניים בכחול ובירוק. יפה בסן פרנסיסקו על המים, אז איך זה שאני מרגיש רחוק.
Anyone want to guess what year around it was written? 76, good guess. This 1979 song was written on one of Arik Einstein's visits to the Bay Area, and it portrays the longing for home in Israel, especially when far away. Juxtaposed with many of his songs about frustrations with his country, this one shows the deep and complex relationship both Einstein and Israelis in general, have with their country. It is no wonder that San Francisco on the Water, the name of that song, has become the unofficial anthem of expat Israelis in the San Francisco Bay Area. Here's the translation. I'm here in San Francisco on the water again. I feast my eyes in blue and green all day. It's cool in San Francisco on the water, so how come I still feel so far away? I'm looking at the boats with all the geese around, the golden bridge is gorgeous, just like in a movie. I wish you could be here to show you around the town. I know that you would want to stay and say it's groovy. But what do you know? All of a sudden, all I want to be is to be home. Back to Cafe Cassit, to have a laugh with Moish and Hatzkel. Give me a piece of the Tabor. Give me a piece of the Kinneret. I just love to fall in love with good old Eretz Yisrael. So warm, my little Eretz. I went from San Francisco to Tel Aviv last month. I hadn't visited since 2018, the place where I lived on a gap year between high school and college, and where I studied as a first-year rabbinical student. And while I often yearn for Israel, the slopes of the Hermon, the coffee shops of Tel Aviv, Shabbat in Jerusalem, this time I didn't go alone. Rather, I staffed a honeymoon Israel trip. That's right, I got to go on honeymoons with 15 Bay Area newlywed couples, along with our Israeli guide and an HMI staff member. A rabbi on your honeymoon, doesn't that sound romantic? We journeyed through winding alleyways of Yafo and explored the mystical city of Sfat, visited the holy sites of Jerusalem, and delighted in the start of summer in Tel Aviv. We hiked Masada and floated in the Dead Sea. We visited Yad Vashem, the enduring memorial to the horrors of the Holocaust, and toured through the Golan Heights, where we could see Syria, the site of so much recent misery and tragedy in the not-so-far-away distance. Most importantly, I encountered a community of young couples who were willing to risk group travel, rising COVID numbers, and intense and intimate moments filled with vulnerability in an effort to ask big questions, the ones that musicians and artists have been pondering over for centuries. We went to the tourist sites, but we weren't tourists. Seekers, explorers, journeyers, adventurers, pilgrims. As my teacher, Rabbi Larry Hoffman, says, tourism is the wrong word for what Jews do when they go to Israel. Rather, pilgrims come because being in this place is part of who they are, a necessary segment in the story of their lives. If they are on a journey, not to leave home, but to come home to a deeper place in their soul, then they are pilgrims. But this pilgrimage actually wasn't really about Israel. And perhaps, ironically, I was on staff for these 10 days not because of anything having to do with our sacred Holy Land, but because of the relevance to my role at Beth Am. I spend so much of my time thinking about community for young American Jews. The goal of the Honeymoon Israel program is to help couples create community with deep and meaningful connections to Jewish life and the Jewish people, meaningful connections to the Jewish life and the Jewish people. And our trip was a mosaic of the Jewish world. Born Jews, non-Jews, Jews by choice, straight couples, gay couples, Jews with roots in the former Soviet Union, including some born in Ukraine, a few with Israeli parents, many who had never ever been to a synagogue. The couples themselves were of various backgrounds: Ukrainians, Bangladeshis, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Serbians, Jamaicans, Filipinos, Israelis, Australians, and even one who had a bar mitzvah at Beth Am with Cantor Greenwald. Many had a partner where one was born Jewish and one was born into another faith tradition, though no longer engaged in its theology or practice. Some had a partner where one was born Jewish and one became Jewish by choice. Some had a partner where one was born Jewish and one was actively and intentionally pursuing another faith. Only a few were couples where each partner was of Jewish heritage, and even those couples had upbringings distinct from one another. What they all shared in common was that each couple was trying to figure it out. How do we do this thing called Judaism? What does a Jewish home look like? How do we raise Jewish children? Do we even want children? How do we deal with these societal, familial, and religious pressures? Many of these couples came on the trip despite previous negative experience with the organized Jewish world. They felt shunned or unwelcomed or marginalized in establishment communities. They felt uncomfortable in traditional Jewish settings, not sure if the places we feel are so warm and welcoming were right for them. They felt loneliness and lack of friends. Synagogues are too far away. The cost is too expensive. The programming is too dry. I feel inadequate in my Jewish knowledge or in my commitment to Israel. The timing is bad. Dating a non-Jewish man or woman makes entering a synagogue uncomfortable, either because the community is not welcoming or because there is an internal perception that interdating is frowned upon. People aren't friendly. Synagogues are boring. The choices that these couples are making isn't whether they should go to Eitz Chaim or Beth Am or Kol Emet. Those are the same places to them. The big choice that's being made is whether the Jewish experiment involves them. Each of these couples, firm in their relationship with their partner, is seeking real community where they can be their whole selves on their own terms. The words of the great religious sociologist Diana Butler Bass echoed in my mind. If we think of belonging only as a membership in a club, organization, or church, we miss the point. Belonging is the risk to move beyond the world we know, to venture out on pilgrimage, to accept exile, and it is the risk of being with companions on that journey. God, a spouse, friends, children, mentors, teachers, people who came from the same place we did, people who came from entirely different places, saints and sinners of all sorts, those known to us and those unknown, our secret longings, questions, and fears. While it was a wonderful trip, it was not an easy trip for me. It certainly was harder on Aaron for obvious reasons. But my 10 days were filled with personal angst, which never quite settled next to my plate of hummus. How do I feel about couples who actively practice more than one religion? How do I feel about young Jews who are likely to work on Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur? As a liberal Zionist, how do I respond to people who are unsure of the need for modern Israel? As a synagogue rabbi, how do I envision a community where synagogue relevance is slipping? As a rabbi who sees himself and my Beth Am colleagues as exceptionally welcoming and open and non-judgmental, how do I handle that they may see me very differently? Organizationally, I wonder about our communal angst too. Does our use of Hebrew or traditional Jewish in-speak serve as a barrier to engagement? Are we too focused on our incredible campus to meet young Jewish families where they are? These couples were well more apt to live in Redwood City or Santa Clara than Palo Alto, Los Altos, or Menlo Park. Do we exercise our intellectual muscles at the expense of our spiritual ones? How do we respond to the exorbitant cost of living here to meet the needs of all of our community members? These are questions to be consumed and debated. Beth Am needs to be asking them openly and often. We also need to prepare ourselves to be a little shocked by the answers. To do this well, to be the belonging community of 21st century Judaism, likely will require a time and a financial commitment that might not necessarily translate into future membership at Beth Am. However, I, for one, am convinced it will have a positive impact on Jewish connections in the long run. One couple that went on an HMI trip I staffed a few years ago, before the pandemic, said, "We thought we were going on a honeymoon trip. Well, we were wrong. What we actually signed up for was much, much more than we could have ever expected. We went on a trip that filled our heads with incredibly rich history, our bellies full of fantastic food and wine, and our hearts with love, life, and culture. We have a renewed, refreshed, and revamped understanding of what it means to have a Jewish home and a Jewish life. You might know Arik Einstein's most famous song, Ani V'Ata. We sometimes sing it at Beth Am, and it's a classic at Jewish summer camps around the world. It's a beautiful and optimistic song about the desire to change the world. It's so iconic that it's even in our prayer book. Ani V'Ata Nishaneh et ha'olam. You and I can change the world. Together, you and I can change the world. It also displays a loving naivete that says, why not? We can do this. Why not ask big questions about identity and meaning in Judaism? Why not push our institutions to be bolder and better and different? Why not bring strange couples to Israel for 10 days? We can do this. Shabbat Shalom. If you're able, I invite you to rise for words of Aleinu, 282 or 586.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גאולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
287.
ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו אחד.
Have a seat. I just spoke briefly about Arik Einstein, a giant of Israeli music, but this week, before we say Kaddish, Israel also lost a giant of Israeli literature. Aleph Bet Yehoshua, A.B. Yehoshua, born to a Sephardic family in Jerusalem. A.B. Yehoshua quickly became one of Israel's premier novelists. Many called him the Israeli Faulkner. Quick-witted and unafraid to be shockingly controversial, A.B. Yehoshua wrote and spoke of the central issues and topics facing modern Israel, from the demise of the two-state solution, his dismay of the lionization of the Western Wall, his deep disdain for Israeli settlements, and his disregard for diaspora Judaism. Israeli President Isaac Herzog called him one of Israel's greatest authors in all generations, who gifted us his unforgettable works, which will continue to accompany us for generations. His works, which drew inspiration from our nation's treasures, reflected us in an accurate, sharp, loving, and sometimes painful mirror image. He aroused in us a mosaic of deep emotions. As a people who love authors and who love books, his legacy in literature will live on as part of the Israeli and Jewish canon. In our community, when I read the name of your loved one, I invite you to rise in his or her honor. Well, then we'll all rise to say words of Kaddish together. In this past week, in this period of Shiva, lost to our community work was Christopher Mateo and Jeffrey Wishko, the uncles of Donovan and Ali Yisrael, the great uncles of Isaiah and Avishai Yisrael. In this period of Shloshim, the 30 days since passing, we're thinking of Jerry Shapiro, Coleman Sachs, Samuel Jacob Klein, Barbara Bunny Ratner, Suzanne Sue Coppett, and Helen Mowry. In this period of Yahrzeit, we remember with love, anniversary since death. In this period of Yahrzeit, we remember with love Milton F. Anker, Philip Armel, Minnie Barkoff, Louis Becker, Min Beckman, Alvin Philip Beiser, Charles Bendis, Parley Bergstrom, Herb Berman, Jerry Berner, Flo Breaker, Murray Braun, Nathan Brownstein, Aaron Cohn, Robert Cooper, Lily Daly, Dorothy Davis, Henry Ehrlich, Doris Flackman, Neely Gidali, Myron Heeger, Ed Hennig, Minna Horowitz, Arthur Innerfield, Sandra Kalt, Fanny Carroll, Avram Cates, Doris Lehrman, Gregory Scott Looper, Linda Mankim, Andrea Rosina Rubin McCool, Aaron Michelin, Bernard M. Nachman, Sherman Neymark, Alvin Platt, Eric Rao, Arthur E. Rector, Charles Roden, Edith Rosenkrantz, Solomon Rubinstein, Sylvia Rubinstein, Doris Russakow, Joseph Sarfati, Norma Satin, Florence Shapiro, Morris Shane, Bernard Shub, William Smerling, Evelyn Stern, Martha Streeter, Eugene Strime, Yetta Tankis, Isaac Tanz, Betty Teen, Harry Tomsky, Eugene Yusso, Beatrice Weinberg, Carol Whiteley, Stella Wise, Benjamin Weissman, Harold Yelim, Devorah Yam, Maria Yudovsky, and Marilyn Zuckerman. If you're thinking of someone else whose name I didn't read, I invite you to rise and share their name with our community at this time. You rise as one. Words of Kaddish 294 or 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Bi'amah divara kirtei bi'amlich malchutei. B'chayechon uv'yomechon uv'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael. B'agala uv'yizman kariv b'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'alam ulmei almaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalel shmei d'chusha b'richu. Le'ela min kol berchata b'shirata. Tush bechata b'nechemata. Da'miram bi'alma b'imru amen.
Amen.
Yehei shlama Rabba min shemaya. B'chaim aleinu bi'al Yisrael b'imru amen. Osei shalom b'mrumav. Hu yasei shalom aleinu bi'al Yisrael b'imru amen.
Amen.
May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, Amen.
Ose shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael,
If you're here with us in person, I call your attention to the tzedakah box near where you walked in and picked up your prayer books, picked up your sidurim. If you're streaming online, you can go to our webpage or you can Venmo Beth-Am. This month, Beth-Am is collecting for Second Harvest Food Bank, an organization I know some of you are intimately familiar with. Even before COVID, Second Harvest was responding to a level of food insecurity in this area that indicated a true crisis. And Second Harvest now is serving 400,000 people each month. 400,000 people each month. So we ask you to be as generous as possible as you walk out, or if you're streaming. That's also applied to return your sidurim, return your prayer books as well. I want to thank, a great team has people, like, even when they are not playing at their tops, that are able to come in off the bench and hit a couple of three-pointers. And Steve and Laurel Chesem showed up at 6 o'clock, and our Steph Curry, Rachel Tash, said, we need you guys to help us with the sound and the video. So thank you so much to Steve and Laurel for being real mensches and helping out as well. And of course to Rachel and Jay and Ken and Fred and Gabriel. Let's sing those words of Oseh Shalom, our eternal hope for peace. You know them, but if not, 294 or 598.
Oseh Shalom, Imroma. Oseh Shalom, Imroma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who makes peace bring peace down, bring peace down. Oseh Shalom, Imroma. Oseh Shalom, Imroma. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down. May the one who brings peace bring peace down, bring peace down.
If you're under the age of 13, why don't you come on up here and join us for Motzi. Come on up, don't be bashful. Or even if your bar mitzvah's this weekend or next weekend, come on up here. Even if you feel like if you wake up in the morning and your back doesn't hurt, we'll have you come on up here. All right,
come on in.
Together, everybody. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom. Say hi to somebody new on your way out.
Hello.